a soldier, an airman, and a Marine walk into a room. This show is The Punchline. My name is Ryan Smeltz, and you're watching Veteran Talk Show.
Use at like the guest room we use for when like we're watching like the niece and nephew, or if like her family comes down to visit. That's it. I mean, it's huge.
That's what's up.
2,000 square foot house for two people is way too much.
That's interesting. I never really thought about that because I think the one I live in is 1,200. It's small. But it's 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom. It's small, but I'm like, so that means if we got a house about this size, I could make a whole room for your closet.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because right now she has 2 closets, and I'm like, when we moved in here, all this wasn't here, and now we need more space. I'm doing the math, and I'm like, all right, well, I feel like I'm telling her that she has to get rid of things, and that's not the case.
I have to tell my wife that because my wife will, and she's gotten a lot better since we've started living together, whatever, 9-10 years ago. But she used to keep shit like crazy. Like she'd be like, I can't throw this out. I was like, we moved to Colorado, and I was like, I was like, we need to do a garage sale and get rid of all this because we can't afford to pack it up and move it. And she's like, but what if I need it? And I'm like, we've lived together for a year. I've never seen you use this thing.
See, I am a little bit of a pack rat in a sense. I think in a sense that if I have a cable or something, I'll be like, oh, I got to keep this in case.
Oh yeah, that whole basket right over there is nothing but cables.
Yeah. So in that sense, in a sense of if I have like a tool that's like, oh, this is practical or whatever, like I can't throw it away because I might need it.
Yeah.
But her thing is shoes and makeup and clothing. And I'm okay with that. Like it's her stuff, whatever her thing is, have at it. But it went from just what she had when we moved in to now things are becoming countertops for makeup and holders for shoes that were not originally intended for that purpose. And that would be fine too, except that
you don't have the room for it.
I'm 6'3", 280 pounds. So if I can't stick my arms out and turn around in a circle, I start to get cramped up.
Yeah.
And then if I'm like trying to get dressed or whatever, and I'm tripping and I get frustrated.
You were holding that beer in your lap like it's a kid, like you're Santa Claus.
I gotta open it.
Like you were. It is really bothering me.
It's my security blanket.
Is it your security?
It's the talking pillow.
If you
like during therapy,
yeah,
and you hold the pillow.
I did not know that was a thing.
Oh, the Belgium. I like the New Belgium. It's pretty good.
Yeah, New Belgium. It's well, that's who makes it. New Belgium. When you have what, the IPA? Yeah, you've got the IPA pack.
So New Belgium is the brewing company.
Yeah, New Belgium's the brewing company.
I thought Voodoo Ranger was the brewing company.
No, it's New Belgium who makes Voodoo Ranger. Oh. They also make Fat Tire. That's like their flagship is Fat Tire.
Fat Tire's okay. I was introduced to it like it was all that, and I was like,
back in the day, it was. I mean, it was like the first like large craft brewery that was like successful.
Where is it?
It's based out of Fort Collins, Colorado.
Yeah, that sounds right. Because I think they got another one. They got another one in Asheville.
Yeah, they opened up. So a bunch of Colorado breweries opened up second breweries in Asheville. So like Oscar Blues, I know opened up a brewery in Asheville. Fat Tire did. I think Sierra Nevada's over there now, and Sierra Nevada's a California brewery.
Yeah.
Like, but people like Oscar Blues, when I see it on the local menu, because I lived in Colorado for 6 years, I'm like, this isn't a Colorado beer. Fucking from Colorado, or this isn't a North Carolina beer. It's from Colorado. Oh, there's a brewery in Asheville. It doesn't fucking count. The recipe was created in Colorado. Call it Colorado fucking beer. Get over yourself.
It kind of destroys the premise of my other show. Because we, on Business and Brews, we try to have a beer from a North Carolina brewery.
There are so many now.
Well, which is good because it kind of makes it easy. But when you're grabbing beer 5 minutes before the show, it's just like read the can really quick. And so when I see Fort Collins, Colorado / Asheville, I'm like, all right, I'm good.
Close enough.
But based off of what you just said, it's not actually a North Carolina beer. So
It wasn't created in North Carolina, no. They moved a brewery or a production facility. So now they have, I'm sure they have more, but their flagships are at Colorado and North Carolina, but they started in Colorado.
So what takes place at places like that? Because you said you're sure that they have more, so they probably have more where they produce it.
Yeah.
But these
Production
places will like have all the testing and the
Yeah, they probably have like testing, a tasting room. They probably do stuff that's only inclusive to North Carolina or to that area. So like you may be able to walk into the tasting room and buy a new Belgian beer that you can only find in that tasting room. That's how a lot of breweries do it. It was like, we don't sell this, we don't can it, we just keg it, put it on tap, and you can come in and buy it. But there are a lot of great North Carolina breweries. So you got Full Steam, which is right over here in Durham, which is one of my favorite local breweries. And that's what the Paycheck is in here. I'll let you have one. It's really good beer. It's a Full Steam. It's Paycheck Pilsner.
Huh.
Great beer.
I like Pilsners.
Yeah. What is it? Pawnee Source is also in Durham. I don't think they can or bottle anything. I'm not sure. I've never seen anything in the stores, but their brewery's right over here in Durham. Really good, cool place to go and hang out and drink good beer. There's a lot of good. Wilmington Brewing down in Wilmington. Like if I go down to Wilmington for whatever reason, I always make sure I stop in there. And if I can pick up like a bunch of just canned beer, once I get my kegerator up and running, I'll just go down there every so often and pick up a keg. Just bring it back.
Yep.
They're really good. Southern Pines is a good one. They're in Southern Pines, obviously.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
I like theirs. What's the one? I want to say their focus might be cider. It's in downtown Durham. I can't remember the name of it now. We literally went there before this lockdown happened.
The only ones I know of in downtown are, I think there's Bull City.
Bull City.
Is it Bull City?
Bull City Cider Works.
Yeah, Bull City Cider Works. There's Full Steam, Pawnee Source. And I'm ringing. I'm popular today. I don't know what he's doing. My best friend's calling.
Probably. What are you doing, bro?
Either that or he needs my truck for something.
That sounds about right. Buy a truck, get friends.
Buy a truck, get friends. Look, I've known that guy for 25 years, which is really sad. And I have, friends that I can be like, yeah, we were kids together. And now he's got kids. And like he tells his kids, he's like, I've known this man since I was your age. And his kids are like, you're like ancient. We're like, no, we're not. We're not ancient.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That is kind of weird. So something I learned yesterday, of course, I told you I was at the flea market. So the guy that I met, the disabled vet from like Desert Storm.
Mm-hmm.
So he stops by, didn't talk for 4 hours this time, but he stayed for a little while, which was nice because dude, it was so cold. So I learned that, I graduated high school with his daughters.
Nice.
I was like, that is so weird. And I guess I didn't really think about it because of the last name. It's like I told him, if you go to that school, that to anybody that knew me there at that time and say my last name, they're going to know me because my siblings we were all homeschooled. I was the only one that went to that high school. It was halfway through freshman year. Mom was like, public school.
Yeah.
Older one's gone. Time to.
Yeah, this guy and I met when we were in middle school. So we went to the same middle school.
That's crazy.
And that's where we met. And then we ended up going to the same high school. And we knew each other all 4 years in high school. And then we ended up going to the same college. So
he didn't join the Marines.
He didn't join the Marines.
Okay.
No.
So out of the two of you, if you were to like gauge level of intelligence, he probably is a little bit smarter than you.
Look, I'm a smart motherfucker. Okay. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I take offense to that. Just because I joined the Marines because I wanted a challenge makes me a dumbass. That argument does hold water.
I think it holds water if you compare between the branches.
Yeah. No, I had like officers that I would be like, I had some officers that I would just be like, this motherfucker, I'm just going to argue with him.
Don't worry, Joe. I'm not saying you're stupid.
Oh, it sounds
I
like
know
it.
that's not true.
It sounds like it. I drive for John Stratus. I feel like this is turning into an SNL skit with Will Ferrell real fast.
No, I definitely agree with you though. When it comes to, you said officers, there's some characters.
There's some character
and you're
officers.
like, wait, but don't you have to have a college degree to do what you do?
I had a platoon commander who I actually respected. Liked the guy. He's a great Marine, great officer, great leader. And he's like, I got my degree in hospitality or whatever. And I'm like, that's like underwater basket weaving is what you're telling me. Like that's an easy major to go and do.
So he has a 4-year degree in taking care of people?
I guess, yeah. Yeah.
Like what, you know how to wash towels?
Technically, I have a 4-year degree from a hospitality college after the Marine Corps.
But yours is in culinary arts, right?
Well, part of it, yeah. Part of my studies was in culinary arts. And then there's food service management. So that I got it's right behind you, man.
Yeah, but I can't read. So,
well, that makes sense. You were in the Army. They just give you a ribbon for it. You guys get ribbons like first graders.
Oh,
get stickers.
It's funny you bring that up because the other day on Facebook, somebody made a jab at the Good Conduct Medal. And the trick is because I saw somebody get one that I was confident that they would not earn it. And then I got 2 as well. And I've had 5 Article 15s. I don't remember what you guys call them.
Page 11s.
Yeah. So
page 11. So you can't get a good conduct if you get an NJP.
That's the thing, though. You can in the Army.
Oh.
You just can't be flagged when you earn it.
Yeah. When I got my good conduct medal.
You can go 2.5 years. You can go 2 years, 11 months just fucking up.
Yeah.
And on that 12th month, as long as you're not flagged on your ERB, your enlisted record brief, as long as you are not flagged and you aren't undergoing any of the punishments, you get it.
No, so my good conduct, I called it my slithering award.
Your what?
My slithering award, because I was able to slither out of getting in trouble. That's how smart I was. I was like, I know how far I can push the line in the Marine Corps without actually getting in trouble.
But don't you get in trouble if you don't get a haircut?
Yeah. But it's not like an NJP.
Okay. So it would be like a negative counseling statement.
Yeah, page 11. You'd probably get a page 11. In the infantry, you just get your ass smoked. That's essentially what would happen. Like it would be just a hazing session.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, you showed up Monday morning with no fresh haircut. All right, good to go. Come with me.
Don't want to shine your boots. Do push-ups. Do push-ups till I get tired.
Yeah, I'm going to make you do push-ups till I get tired. Yeah, exactly.
Hint, I'm not doing push-ups.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to get tired.
Hey, you see that big giant pile of rocks? I want you to move it all over there. And I want you to paint them all. And then I want you to move them all back over there. And then I want you to repaint them. We're just going to do that all day.
The Last Castle.
Yeah.
That's anybody that's ever seen that movie. That's what was the Army like? You remember when he had to move the rocks?
Yeah.
And then he had to move them back?
That's pretty much what it's like.
That's the military.
Yeah.
So page 11s were equivalent to Article 15s, or they were equivalent to like negative counseling?
They're like they're negative counseling is what they are.
So it's not
like I had one page 11 for a speeding ticket that wasn't even my fault, and I got thrown out of court. Like, but I got a page 11 just for getting pulled over.
Okay, yeah. So that's like
that's just like
I think it was.
Don't do that again.
Yeah,
that's what that is. Non-judicial, an NJP or ninja punch, as we used to refer to it. Was kind of was a little more serious. Like I think you got 3 ninja punches, you got kicked out of the Marine Corps.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So we called them Article 15s because it comes from Article 15 in the UCMJ, which is part of the manual for courts martial. It covered you guys too.
It covers everybody.
It's funny because the Air Force calls them something different too, but it's all the exact same thing. It's not even like
the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Yeah.
There's only one rule in there that we ever cared about. And that was Article 90, whatever. It's like the catch-all.
134.
Like it's pretty much like
that's what everybody, because
Because anybody I ever knew got charged with an NJP was always charged with a 134.
That's for one of two reasons. One, the people submitting it had no idea what the person did, what it fell under.
Yeah.
Because there was plenty of articles. Or two, they were literally just out to get everybody.
Yeah.
Because you can
134 someone for anything.
Because you blink too many times.
Yeah.
Article 134.
Yeah. I don't like
your
the
head
cut of your jib.
Straight.
Yeah.
Article 134.
Yeah.
You rolled your
I knew plenty of guys who got NJP'd under 134.
And that's why I say that, because
it's like the most pointless fucking thing in the world. That's where you find out who's part of the good old boy, at least in the Marine Corps, because the Marine Corps is a good old boys network once you get past a certain rank. Like if you want to make a career in the Marine Corps, you're a part of a good old boys network. And so
I can see that.
If you aren't, it's kind of, I look at it as, you ever seen the movie Moneyball?
Fuck.
You ever seen that with Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill about the Oakland A's?
Long time ago, man.
Well, there's a scene. It was like the major leagues have this like definition of what a major league baseball player is.
Yeah.
Like from like what they look like, who they date, and blah, blah, blah. That's kind of how the Marine Corps is. The Marine Corps has this idea of who you should be. And if you don't fit that, you can't be part of the good old boys network, which means you're going to make it to a certain rank to be done.
Yeah.
Just done for. Like when my time to re-enlist came up, all infantry guys, at least I was told, if you wanted to re-enlist, your re-enlistment package went up to the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, and he because they were starting to cut back at that point. Because Iraq at that point had ended. They had announced that we're going to start withdrawing from Afghanistan. So they were like, well, we can cut the size of the force down. We can deplete the force down. So it
was like QMP, QSP.
Yeah. So like if you didn't fit what the Marine Corps thought you should be as an infantryman, they just fucking booted your ass. Like not like dishonorably. They were like, we're not going to let you re-enlist. Thank you for your service.
Thanks.
Like it didn't matter if you had like I knew guys who had a lot of combat experience and were good Marines, like, but they weren't, high and tight, fucking marching around frog voice Marines. They were medium regs, gunny rolls with their sleeves, and they weren't the stereotype but they were in combat who you would want. Those guys would be like, nope, we don't want you. Thanks. Get out.
No.
Thank you for your service. Get the fuck out. You're not part of the good old boys network. The good old boys network are literally Marines who joined right after high school, never known anything other than high school, other than the Marine Corps. And they it's like a frat party. I mean, it's like a bunch of frat boys. And that's a small percentage of Marines.
Yeah. We had, so it kind of varied a little bit in the Army, primarily because it's larger, it gets a little bit more MOS specific.
Yeah, no.
Plus because the MP Corps is co-ed, so you have the good old boys club, but at certain points it might include the females, or
we call them. We used to call. I don't know if they still call them this because they're now everything's co-ed. Back when I was in, there was no. So you had 4th Division at training at Paris Island, which was female only, and as they were all pogues. Like if you were a girl, you were a pogue. It's just how it was. They couldn't serve in an infantry unit, but we call them WMs. WM stands for Women Marines or Walking Mattresses. That is highly sexist, but that's what we call them.
That's what you called them.
Yeah. I remember we had a FET team, which is a female engagement team, come down to us in Afghanistan. We were all just like, first of all, we hadn't seen a woman in God knows how long. I think it was like, that was towards the end of our deployment. So we were 6 months in.
Well, I mean, we deployed with females where 6 months in, we were still like, didn't we bring females with us?
We didn't. Like we saw them and they were busted.
Yeah.
But like to us, they were like, yeah, if I get the opportunity, I'll take it.
It's like the centerfold in a magazine.
Yeah.
It's almost not real, but it's real enough. So
yeah, I mean but going out on patrol with them was fucking awful.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
But by the title of their team, it makes it sound like they're supposed to be halfway decent at what they do.
I think this is like the
female engagement team.
So they were the ones that were going out and like engaging with the local female population, because we weren't allowed to do that because of the Afghan culture.
Yeah.
So I wasn't allowed. So if I walked into a compound and there was a 6-year-old boy and a bunch of his mom and grandmother and aunts and everybody, they all went into another room and I had to talk to the 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Because he was the man of the house. And I don't know if you have ever talked to a 6-year-old, but it gets you when you're trying to like gather intel or talk to people or engage people. You can't fucking talk to a 6-year-old and expect him to go relay a message to his dad. Like, we'd much rather have talked to like his mom or something, but we weren't allowed to because of the culture. So they created female engagement teams or FET teams, and FET teams would come in and they would go and do like medical shit with the females, because we weren't allowed to do that either. Like even our like doc who was with us, our battalion surgeon, he could not go and like, unless a male was present and gave him permission and it was an emergency situation, he was not allowed to provide medical treatment under their culture.
Yeah.
Like he had to get permission from the man of the house or the man or whoever the man was.
It sounds familiar. It's just like when I was at Cropper in Iraq. You know, Iraq was totally different. Plus, we weren't exposed to a lot of that. And then when you took females, soldiers, and they engaged with like male detainees, most of the time they couldn't tell the difference, because once you put all your full battle rattle on,
they couldn't.
They walk up to them, and the only thing is, like, if they gave them,
they had to take off like their helmets and stuff and show that they were in fact females.
Okay.
Like, so when they were doing that stuff, we would set up like a little cordon, and we'd say, okay, you're going to be in this building. We're going to search everyone that's going to come in here, because we're going to have to do that. But you're going to go in and talk to them and be on you. And they would provide their own internal security in that room or whatever, or in that building or wherever they were. And we'd be on the outside, and we would just make the women like show us that they hadn't, like, they would make them pull their burqas tight so that we could see if they were like, had like a suicide vest on or something. And we told the men, like, hey, you can't go in there because our women are in there. So this is woman to woman. And he would see that there's a woman going to walk her in, and he'd be like, all right, cool.
That's crazy.
And we would go on patrol, and like the lower enlisted team members of the team were fine. Like we didn't have a problem with them. Like they were just like excited to not, they really were like, we're in the infantry. And we're like, no, you're not. But they like got to go out on patrol with us. And they're like, man, I hope we get some. And we're like, dude, look, it's like 6.5. We got like 3 weeks left here. We don't want to get any, like we've gotten all we need. And I just don't know how you're going to be in a firefight. But like we would go, so we couldn't walk on roads or bridges. Yeah. So we had to make our own paths everywhere. And like we would always have to go with them. We'd always have to go north of us, where we had constant eyes on a road that had already been cleared, that the Marines could see 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's the only place we would really ever take them. I think they went south 1 or 2 times and had to walk through fields, like muddy fields. And they were like, the staff NCO who was in charge of the team was like, well, let's just go on the road. We'll get there quicker. And everybody's like, nope, because that road's littered with IEDs. We are like, I wasn't on this patrol, but I heard this story, and I don't know if it's true, but the squad leader on this patrol, so he was a sergeant, and the FET team leader was like a gunny. And they looked at this gunny and they were like, it doesn't matter. He is in charge of the fucking patrol. He's got the experience. He's been here. He knows the AO. You listen to what the fuck he has to say. Your rank doesn't matter.
Especially when you get in the situation where it's
like he's making the final decision.
You're talking about being involved in that area for an extended period of time.
Well, this, I think I can't remember if she was a staff sergeant or a gunny, but she was a staff NCO and he was a sergeant. And the story goes is that they were walking through this field and she was like, we really are going to be late for this. We need to set up so we can have as much time, blah, blah. Let's walk down the fucking road. Sergeant, I'm telling you to walk down the road. And he goes, you know what? you can go walk on the fucking road. If that's what you want to do, I'll go set up an LZ and for a Casevac because you're going to get fucking pink misted.
You're going to need it.
You're going to need it. And I'm not going to put my guys to it. But if you want to go walk on that road, here's a metal detector. Knock your fucking self out. I don't give a shit. Like, that's what this sergeant told. That's the supposed story. I mean, like I said, I wasn't there. This was one of those. I heard this because it happened to another squad in my platoon.
I feel like if you apply a little common sense, it's like if you're using a metal detector and taking more precautions on a road littered with IEDs.
Well, she didn't end up doing it. He was adamant. He was like, shut your bitching up. Like, shut your ass up. Fucking
I feel like that would slow you down. The road would be slower.
Well, the field was pretty slow because it was muddy. It's raining season at this point. It's spring. Like, it's raining. And so, like, you're walking through mud and the mud's coming up anywhere between shin level and knee level.
Yeah.
So you're like, literally, you get through one field and it felt like you just ran 5 miles. And then you've got to walk through another field. And that's how we would have to patrol, because you couldn't walk on any type of path or bridge or road.
Yeah.
Because it was just, that's where the Taliban knew you were going to try and walk. So they would just throw IEDs down like fucking crazy.
That's insane.
And I mean, it was just, they were littered. Like, when we would have to cross a canal, we would have to sit there, and just to walk across the dirt road to get down into the canal, we would pick a random spot far away from any bridge. And then somebody, the point man, would have to take out his metal detector, and he'd have to sweep just the width of that road. And he would have to create a path so that we could make sure that was not IED, because that's just how many IEDs there were.
You know what's crazy about all that is, like, so you guys went through it too, but we trained so much, especially before we got put on orders. Because before we got put on orders, we could have deployed anywhere. We could have gone to Iraq. We could have gone to Afghanistan. We could have been on dead ops. We could have been on maneuver enhancement. We could have been on convoy security, route clearance. I mean,
fuck convoy security.
We say MP stands for multi-purpose, and it is true to a decent extent. So we train. And, you know, basic training, or when we got to the unit, we would do FTXs, and we would go and we would have to, you know, learn the hand and arm signals and maneuver through. We used woods a lot, obviously, Fort Polk, Louisiana, you know, going through the swamp and
land nav,
training together, learning those hand and arm signals. And even during training, you get a little complacent. And so at some point during it, you're like, God, this is stupid.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, the NCOs, because I was lower enlisted at the time, so maybe they couldn't set up a decent device. Maybe they didn't have the simulators, so they just use a piece of fishing line and then they would yell bang.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, God, this is
so much of my Marine Corps experience was playing cops and robbers in the woods.
But to have to, like, go do it, I would have hated that so much more, because now it's just like you've trained for. So it's like, all right, good. We got the hard part out of the way. Like, we know the basics. But now it's like real life. So if you screw up, you're dead.
You can't see, like, and here's the thing. They're not using, like, it's not fucking Vietnam. There's not like fishing twine that these things are fucking buried, and there are signs that you can look for, but for the most part,
especially if it's rainy season, like, they buried it, and now. Yeah, it's fuck all that.
It fucking sucks, dude.
And walking everywhere.
Yeah. So there was a patrol that found an IED. I don't know how they found it. And so we took EOD out because my squad was QRF. I'll never forget one of the Marines on our squad. He's in my team. He was sitting up against this wall while the EOD guys were out, like, looking for more IEDs, because we had cordoned off the area and we were just kind of waiting for him. And so we were like, hey, we're going to get up and move to this position over here while they're sweeping over there. And so as this dude who has I think it was like a LAW or a small rocket or something he had a rocket launcher on his back. He gets up. The launcher had caught a wire, command wire, and, like, pulled it all the way up the ground. And he just looked, and he's like, he got it off. He's like, wire. And he just ran. And we all look, and there's just, as he's running, he doesn't realize it's, like, connected. He thought it was just, like, he'd gotten it off. And it was just pulling up from the wall. We're like, stop. And he stopped and we got it off of him. And we called one of the EOD techs and he's like, yeah, all right, let's go find this thing. And then he just like started following the wire. We're like, I'm going to go the fuck over there.
Yeah, you keep doing that.
You keep doing that. And I'm going far the fuck away from whatever that is attached to.
Golly.
I mean, nothing went off. Nobody was hurt, thank God. But I mean, they were all over the place. Any place that they thought. So there was like a daisy chain of like 10 of them in a ditch in between two fields, because they knew if we walked through those fields again, that they could pop shot us or shoot at us, and we would instinctively go into that ditch to engage them, and then they could just set off a daisy chained IED. And there were like 10 of them, 9 or 10 of them in this, just daisy chained together in this ditch that we found. And we were like, yeah, that would have been bad, because we've been in this field, been shot at while in this field, and we've taken cover in this ditch and engaged back.
Yeah.
And they saw that and they were like, boom. That's how we're going to get them.
That's so annoying, man. That's one thing. Like, so ours was, we would do kind of stuff kind of like you did, but with Humvees, Oh,
it was Iraq. In Iraq, we did everything with Humvees.
Yeah. So when you're going down the route or whatever, we would alternate, especially the wider the overpass got. Where you went in and where you came out. Because if it was really wide, you would go in over here and then move over to that side, come out over there. Obviously, so if they're dropping something on the other side, hopefully, less damage, but shit like that, because we didn't
have overpasses where we were in Iraq, which was really weird. Like, we were in a small town though. Like, I mean, it was probably a population. I mean, it wasn't like, because you were down in Baghdad, right?
Yeah.
Like in the Baghdad area.
Yeah.
Like I was in a town probably like not even a quarter of the size.
I mean, we went all over. So you saw all kinds of shit, but right outside the main ECP that we always used, Irish went under Vernon. That's just what we called the routes. And there was an overpass right there. Yeah. So if we were going one place, we would be hitting the on-ramp to change routes. And if we weren't, we were going under, but just really switching it up. I mean, my main point is it's like they see how you react. They see what you do. I'm down. A check. And once they know what they're looking for, they can take advantage of it. That's the most frustrating thing about it.
Signs. There are always signs for an IED or contact for that matter.
Yeah.
Always signs for it. Like you'd be walking, like in Afghanistan, we'd be walking up to a collection of a few compounds to go talk to these people. And as you're about 800, 900 meters out, you start seeing like little dots run. Like you see these little dots moving on the horizon and you start scoping them and you're like, oh, those are people and they're running. All right. I'm about to get fucking shot. Like that's where someone's in that area and they're going to shoot at us.
I was going to say the people running, those were the civilians.
Yeah. They were getting the fuck out of Dodge. They were like, we don't want to be caught in this crossfire. So they would like dip out, which good for them. I mean, they knew it was coming and there's no way to warn us. I mean, but I mean, you'd see them, like you'd put your scope
there
up.
Was that.
Like, yeah. You're like, all right, well, something like you'd start turning around. You'd be like, all right, shit's about to go down. Like, get ready to punch the time clock because we're about to get it. Or you'd walk into a village or whatever, I don't know if you can call them villages, and there would be no one there. You'd be like, I'll never forget, like one of the last
firefights. Sounds like some movie shit. Right
it really was. Like, I'll never forget one of the last firefights I was in Afghanistan. It was right before we left. It was a beautiful day, and we walked into this area we had not been in. It was kind of north of where we were, in this little OP that we had, and we were walking north. And my team was set up on a cordon while these other guys were talking to some locals, and there were locals there. They weren't running. I remember you just felt something in the air, and my machine gunner looks at me and goes, feels like we're going to get shot at today. And I looked around and I was like, it does. That is hanging in the air. And sure enough, I mean, it wasn't us that got engaged. But sure enough, about 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, there was a gun battle. And we went charging into it. It was the craziest. Like, you could, at that point, we were so experienced, like, you could just kind of tell, like, it was in the air. You're just going, all right.
Palpable engagement.
Yeah, you could just be like, yeah, I feel it. I feel it in my bones. It's just the oddest thing. The oddest thing. The machine gunner looked over at me and goes, it feels like we're going to get shot at. And I looked over and I could see my squad leader talking to this local guy with the terp. And I looked at him and I looked back at my machine gun and I go, yeah, it does, but no one's running. It's like, I know, it's fucking weird. I'm like, yeah. Like, all right, well, nothing we can do about it. And had like not even 30 minutes later, kicked off. But it was like 15-minute firefight.
That's not bad.
Yeah. But you could feel it. It was the weirdest fucking thing.
So how often did you guys get in a tick?
It varied. I knew some squads that would get in a tick almost every day. Like, and I knew other squads that, just because of how the patrols were laid out and who was going on what patrol and what time, that they may not get in a tick for like a week, but they'd get in one.
Yeah.
And so it was all just kind of, I don't know. It was just all kind of random.
We lucked out. And I tell everyone my deployment was like a vacation. One squad took an EFP and we took rockets at the courthouse where we were guarding them. So it definitely didn't come without a pucker factor, but we didn't see a lot. And we were of course, in trucks too. So if they decided to come at us with small arms fire, I feel like it, probably would have just bounced off. And unless I feel like usually to kick it off, either to kick it off or end it, there's an IED somewhere.
Yeah.
In there. But
first, I feel like so it was my platoon and first platoon. I feel like first platoon saw more action than my platoon. We were kind of parallel for most of the deployment to each other. But out of my platoon, I feel like first squad got more ticks than anybody.
Yeah.
So I always felt like, all right, those are the guys who are getting in a tick. But like,
then
you knew, like, they were going out, and you could talk to the guys. They'd be like, "Yep, it's prime time for fighting time. We're gonna go, like, just kind of it's what's gonna happen." And we'd be like, "All right, well, we're on QRF in this rotation, so good luck."
Got your back like a butt crack.
And like, we would sit there with our gear on while they went out on patrol, and sure enough, they'd first squad go out and fuck shit up, and then we'd be out trying to go help them out. And if the fight was still going on when we got there, fine. If not, whatever. But yeah, I think first platoon got into their fair share.
We had one because our whole company was dead ops, but we did the high value guys, and then another platoon. I can't remember what the other platoon did. But I think two of us were leaving the wire on a regular basis. And then first platoon, they did all the air missions. So except for the planes and the occasional escort, they didn't leave the wire at all.
Oh, everybody left the wire, but it was weird because we would do these rotations. So you were either on patrol, you were on guard, or you were in your downtime and you were on QRF. And so your downtime was you sleep, but if shit goes down, you're the ones who is going out to do it. Like, that's just kind of how. And so, but it wasn't like the same time every day. So it wasn't like my squad was always the QRF guys at 9 o'clock in the morning. It would just kind of, because we do them in shifts, and I can't remember what the hours were. And they would change because we wouldn't want to build up the patterns.
So was this a daily rotation or a weekly rotation?
It was daily. I mean, so you would go on. So I would go on. Iraq was more stable. Like, I knew my time to be on post was midnight to 6 a.m.
Okay.
Then I'd come off post, and then I could go to sleep, wake up, work out, and then go on the afternoon patrol, come back from patrol, go on post.
Okay.
That's kind of how it worked. I had like on post was like, we called it 16 on, 8 or 6 on, 18 off, or whatever it was. So, but in Afghanistan, it was much more choppy. Like it wasn't set in stone. Right. It was much more because you couldn't have the same changing of the guard. So there was much more pattern shifts. So you would be maybe one day you'd be on guard for 8 hours and you'd come off and you would go immediately on patrol.
Yeah.
Or you'd go on guard for 6 hours, come off, and you'd be on QRF, or you'd go out on patrol and come back. It just all changed. It's however the leadership wanted to make the schedule for them. And they would do it like 48 hours out.
Huh.
So you kind of knew what the next 24 hours held for you. But other than that, you didn't really know.
That's crazy.
So
ours was pretty, of course, obviously, like the meat of ours was guard.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was kind of nice too, because when you would go to the IHT, we would leave the fob and we would go into the green zone where the IHT was. So our post there was like a fob inside a fob inside a larger fob.
Right.
And that was pretty standard schedule wise. Definitely wasn't easy. You were also looking at like a 12 on, 12 off scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time you throw in like a gym session and maybe, depending on when you were switching out, you wanted to go eat at the DFAC before you went on shift. Because once you were on shift, you just ate wherever the fuck your post was. And so, it got pretty difficult, but it was, and I want to say that too was 7 days a week, like no days off they would take.
Yeah, I mean, we never had a day off. There was never a day off.
So when we did Cropper the first month and a half, when we got in country, we got lucky and we had 1 day off. But once you threw in that 12-hour rotation, it was more like 12 hours off.
Mm-hmm.
And me personally, I would find the MWR with the best air conditioning and pass the fuck out on the couch.
Didn't have any of that. Not in Afghanistan. So in Afghanistan, so we went on, I'll never forget this. It was just my platoon went on a helo insert op that was supposed to be like 3 days and ended up being like 2.5 weeks. And it rained the entire, I don't think we fired our weapon once on that op. I don't think, and we were the furthest south that we had been. Like the enemy had the Taliban was like, why the fuck are these guys here? Because we were so far south.
Wow.
And at the same time, another, I think it was weapons company in our battalion pushed further south than we did while we were on that op.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we didn't get into a tick at all. I mean, we were down there. Nobody did.
Yeah.
I don't think. I don't remember anybody getting into a tick. But we would bounce around. No,
I mean, that's good, right?
I can't remember. But I remember the op being supposed to being 3 days, ended up being like 2 or 3 weeks, something like that.
I think it's funny that you got into fights so often that you can't remember, and I can like pinpoint the number of times that we saw like
I really
except for like IDF.
Me personally, I didn't get into that many firefights. I mean, it wasn't like, I'm not trying to sound like a badass. It wasn't like every day I had my, but there was like good. Every day I can remember there's somebody either in my platoon or first platoon was in a tech for like 3 months, 4 months. Like, but it was like every day.
No, our company, the biggest casualties our company took is after we got back.
Oh,
name it.
Yeah.
Accidents to suicide.
Yeah.
Never. That's the saddest part is we deployed and redeployed 100% and then ended up losing people.
Once you came home.
Which is sad in and of itself. But the reason I say that is because you guys saw something in a platoon or a squad. We got lucky. Of course, it was. I'm talking about Iraq. That's the only place I've ever been.
Iraq, nobody fired in my battalion, or at least, no one in my company fired their weapon at all in Iraq in anger. When I was, because you and I were there in the same time, but
yeah, not even with the whole. You said the SEALs going across and coming back.
We weren't part of that. Yeah, that wasn't us. They went over into Syria, did whatever the fuck they did. I mean, that was the rumor mill that flew around. But they're coming to get us. Yeah, I think there was like a V bed that went off on Gulf Company or Echo Company, and we found a bunch of IEDs. But I don't. Nobody in my battalion in Iraq, I think, or in my company, fired a weapon in anger at the enemy the entire deployment.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
I mean, we were there at a transitional time. I mean, it was literally half of our deployment. We would go out on patrol, and then the next half of the deployment, they were like, "Nope, the Iraqis have it. Al Anbar has been handed back to them. Like, your job is to sit on post."
Yeah. The worst part about ours is we attempted that, and I think I talked about that before, is we tried it and it failed fucking miserably. So where we were supposed to hand it off to the Iraqis, we ended up passing it off to an infantry unit, which was...
I think the only guys in Iraq who got cars were guys who got hit by IEDs.
Got what?
Combat action ribbons.
Oh.
So in order to get a combat action ribbon, you have to be engaged in combat.
We called them cabs.
We call them cars.
Action badge.
Yeah, combat. Well, call them cars.
I was like, the only people that got cars. We weren't allowed to have cars.
I think the only ones I know of that got cars on that deployment were in convoys where their vehicle got hit. It wasn't even the entire convoy. It was just the people in that vehicle.
I think I mentioned it, but they had me do the paperwork, the sworn statements for the IDF that we took.
Yeah.
We took 4 rockets.
We took IDF,
on
nobody
on us, like on the fucking...
Yeah, the day Obama got elected, we got IDF'd and nobody got, that was the first time they actually landed close in our cob.
So
they actually landed inside the wire of the cob.
So you never got one?
Not in Iraq, no.
Oh, okay.
I got one in Afghanistan.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I asked, because I'm like, it sounds like you were in something.
Yeah, no. I'm talking about Iraq. So my first deployment, nobody... Shit, dude. And when I was on the Advon party in Afghanistan, had my car before the rest of my battalion got there. Fucking one of the squad leaders from my platoon, who was probably the best squad leader, I think, in the whole goddamn company, he got shot in that same firefight and got his Purple Heart. And that was before our battalion even got there.
He's healing, and
he was already
to the job.
He was already back with us because he took a ricochet round.
Oh, you guys are here?
Yeah,
took you long enough.
So he took a ricochet round into his leg and had to get evac. Like, he didn't want to get evac. He protested it up and down. And the battalion that we were ripping with was like, "No, we called in a 9-line for you." And there was another squad leader from them who was really fucked up, and they made a documentary about that dude, and it was on Netflix for a long time. It's called To Hell and Back, or Hell and Back, or something like that. It's about this. So that was about a squad leader who got wounded in Afghanistan, comes home, and deals with coming home. I mean, he got fucked up. I mean, he like shattered his femur and shit. So I was in that patrol that he got shot at, and the squad leader from my platoon, as part of the Advon party, was right next to him and also got shot, but didn't get nearly as, literally took like a ricochet round into his leg. But he went, got evac'd, came back to us before our main element even got to us. I remember our main element came in and they were like, they saw him. They're like, "Oh my God, we heard you got like your legs blown off and shit." And he was like, "No, just took a fucking round, and the leg was out for a week." That's about it.
First of all,
and the funny thing, the ironic thing is that squad leader was the one who, because how we did our Advon was we did 2 Advons. The first one, which was the one I was on with him, was like came in almost a month and a half before the main element, and then the squad lead, all the rest of the squad leaders from the battalion came in, and then came the main element. And so we had essentially 2 advance parties.
Yep.
And I'll never forget when we were there, this squad leader looked at me and goes, dude, we're here so much fucking earlier than the rest of the goddamn unit. We're going to someone's going to get fucking shot before the rest of our main element gets here. And he was joking about it. And I was like, how ironic that you were the one making those jokes and you're the one that gets shot. And he's like, fuck you. I fucking hate you. But yeah, I mean, he was, I'll never forget that. Because he came walking up to me at the end of that firefight because I was arguing with the squad leader. I was like, there's a machine gun over there and I'm shooting at it. And he's yelling at me. He's like, hey, stop shooting. You got Marines in front of you. And I'm like, bro, there is a machine gun position right over there. I can see it. And he was like, I don't give a fuck. You got Marines. I was like, all right, cool. And then I got up and ran to go like charge forward because I was carrying ammo for their 240 gun. And I got up and ran to go give ammo to the 240 gun. And right as I got into position, there was a machine gun burst that came over and took out where we just were. Like was just, and it was from the machine gun position over that I was shooting at.
Yeah.
And I remember looking back at the corn and seeing just the corn exploding because they were in a cornfield, fully grown, and like they were laying down in it. I just remember seeing all the corn just like exploding from impact rounds. I was like, that was the first time I'd ever been shot at. I was like, holy shit, that's fucking badass. Like, and then as soon as that stopped, I could hear faint yells for corpsmen. I'm like, nope, not going to bother with that because I'm too far away. And that was the end of the fight. Like, and then I remember going back to help secure the LZ. And I jump into this position, and here comes my squad leader from my platoon. And he's like, nice shooting, Tex. I got fucking shot. And I was like, I shot you? What? You got shot? And I'm looking at him like, you're not bleeding. He lifts up his like pant leg, and the corpsman had slapped a bandage on it, and there was blood.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I got fucking shot. And then the helo lands, and the helo takes off, and he's still sitting with me. And he's just like, I can't believe this. Fucking first firefight in Afghanistan. I get fucking shot. He's like bitching. Because he's not bitching. He's pissed. Yeah. He is just like, he is ready to go kill people. Like he is just so angry.
I mean, I feel like I would be upset too. First firefight and I get shot.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. This officer comes walking through. He's like, hey, you were supposed to be on that helo. We've been looking for you. He's like, he looks at him, he's like, I'm good, sir. I can walk. And he's walking around. He's fine. Like,
so it's a ricochet. Did it go in or was it like
it went in and then like fell out? Like they were like, it was like it like, and he was able to like take it out with his fingers.
Okay.
But it left a huge gash that he needed to get stitches for.
Sure.
And he was like, I'm fine. Like he wasn't hurt. He wasn't like, oh my God, I've been shot. He wasn't like the other dude who was really fucked up.
Done.
Like he was like, holy shit, this, like he was helping that guy. But he was like, I'm fine. It's a scratch. Like I don't need to go anywhere. And the officer from this other battalion was like, you don't fucking understand. We called in a 9-line for 2 evacs because we thought you were, because you were also shot. That's part of our SOP. So you've got to get on the helo. And so the helo had to turn around and come back and land again. And he had to get on it. And I had to carry his weapon back to the fucking base. I'll never forget my company.
So basically, it's like you guys, got involved. You got through it. Somebody called up a 9-line, and it was like we just know 2 people got hit.
Yeah,
we might not know the severity of it.
The corpsman who was, I guess, calling out the injuries had like thrown a like bandage on him.
Yeah,
and was like, I got him hit. And he just kind of was like, you're not bad. Here's a bandage. Yeah. Let me work on this fucking guy.
Yeah.
And so, but he just knew there was another guy hit. Like there's so much going on.
So he's like, they're like, hey, we're calling up a 9-line. How many? 2.
Yeah, 2.
These injuries, fucking whatever.
We got like routine and surgical or urgent or whatever. And
so when it comes in, it's like, hey, I was called for 2. I got to take 2.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's going to be questions.
Yeah, he was fucking pissed. He like threw his M4 at me and he was like cussing as he's walking to the helicopter. I'll never forget that. He's like, fucking take my fucking rifle. This is fucking bullshit. You motherfucker. Like he was just going crazy. I was like, I'm glad. I'll never forget. I looked to my other buddy. I looked at him. I was like, I'm glad I got his fucking rifle because he'd be shooting motherfuckers right now. Because he was pissed in the fact that he got shot.
Right.
And it really was not. I know this guy, and he really was probably one of the best, if not the best, squad leader in the entire company. Just a lot of combat experience and a real true leader. Like, he wasn't my squad leader. But he was just so fucking pissed. He was like, he ended up getting an awarded a Silver Star. This guy for later on in the deployment.
That's good.
Because he's just, he is a fucking badass.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. He threw his rifle. He's like, "This is fucking bullshit, motherfucker!" And he's just walking off. He's storming off. He's like, there's like somebody, and I don't know who it was. Yet I can remember someone trying to come up to him to like grab him to help him, and he's like, "Get the fuck off of me!" He's like, he was not having it. And then like a week later, he shows back up, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm back." I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "Got 2 stitches."
2 stitches.
Yeah. And they like had to come. So I'll never forget. So we went back to this battalion's cob where my company gunnery sergeant was. And he was my company gunnery sergeant. One of the best company gunnery sergeants ever is from like the 9th Ward in New Orleans. Like just grew up hard as shit. Like just hardcore motherfucker.
Yeah.
And he is dancing around, just smiling and happy. And he's like, "Yeah, this ain't Iraq, bitches. Like, we gonna fuck shit up." Like, I was just like, dude, calm the. And then I saw this guy in a fight, the same dude in a firefight who is literally Rambo style shooting, yelling at the Taliban, like, "You can't shoot, motherfuckers." And he's just like shooting back. And he's just like, I was like, dude, Guns is a badass. Like, straight up. Like, he's a fucking bad motherfucker. Like, He is legit. But yeah, he was dancing around in the cob like,
oh my goodness.
He got his Purple Heart in his car on like the 3rd day of the deployment. That motherfucker's going home. And like, we're just like, okay, dude, that's cool.
We had one guy that it seems like he had been deployed like 5 times. We had another guy, I think he was on his 2nd or 3rd deployment when he went with us. That dude got fucked up in the head.
I know a few dudes like that who are just fucked up in the head. I like, especially this guy and guys who would, like their 4th or 5th deployment.
This guy and the other guy. So the other guy, he was I want to say E5, E6, and he had deployed with this other dude who was like basically fresh out of basic training. Yeah, he showed up at the unit and deployed. He got back, came to us, and then we deployed. So I want to say it was his 2nd deployment, but he had been with the other dude, and it was to Iraq as well. So the one guy, the E5, he was our lead truck most of the time. He knew all the routes in Iraq. He knew where they led. He knew how to get to where, because as far as like the route names and the intel and where our fobs were, a lot of that was standard across the board, regardless of, Army, Marines, whatever.
Yeah, all the routes were the same.
Yeah. So when it came to like the Blue Force tracker and doing overlays and navigating and whatnot, sometimes he would have to take the op order and sit in his Humvee and do a little planning. But when we left, like he might need to look at updates on intel, but other than that, he was a lead truck. He was just like, we're going this way.
Yep.
And so he was shit hot. I mean, he was kind of like that guy though, just gung ho. If we get to shoot some shit,
yeah, he's fucking shit up.
I want to pull the trigger. That's why I'm here. He was so first of all, he was short.
Yeah.
Or I guess he's short. I don't think people get taller after a certain period.
He was a tiny guy.
So he wasn't as bad as this other E7 I knew that was like angry at everybody for how he was.
Yeah.
But he still had a little bit of Shortman Syndrome. The biggest issue with it was he just wanted to fuck shit up.
Yeah. Well, that's how pretty much everybody in the Marine Corps was like. But there were guys in my company, like we had I look at like Iraq, like if my Iraq deployment was like my Afghanistan deployment, we would not have done well at all because we didn't have nearly the amount of great NCOs that we had when we went to, like we lucked out when we went to Afghanistan is that we had some really great NCOs and staff NCOs.
Yeah.
Like really great, like just shit. Like that one squad leader I was just talking about. There were a couple squad leaders and platoon sergeants in another platoon. There were a couple of squad leaders in my platoon, and then officer wise, out of that mix between those two platoons, we had one decent officer, one really great officer, and one kind of shitty officer. And when I say shitty, I don't mean like it wasn't like he was a dumbass or anything, but he was just, I mean, he was really in the Marine Corps for himself.
Yeah.
Like the other two guys were good officers in the fact that they wanted to lead their men.
Yeah.
And they weren't just like ribbon chasing. The other one was a ribbon chaser, like you wouldn't. But I mean, we lucked out of those two platoons because we're
going to come back to that.
What, ribbon chasing?
Yeah.
Can we take a break first?
Yeah.
All right. Put it on the house. I gotta do this. Smoke.
This is the Veteran Talk Show. If you or someone you love is suffering as a victim of sexual harassment, sexual assault, needs help with addiction and recovery, or mental health and well-being, then please go to veterantalkshow.com/resources. This show is hosted, produced, and edited by Ryan Smeltz. Our co-host is Joe Balak, and a guest starring veterans.